Paint Care is all about keeping it simple for district residents. They make recycling leftover paint easy with convenient locations like your local paint store. Paint Care has 3 simple rules for painting smarter and reducing waste. 1, buy the right amount of paint for the job. 2, use up what's left. And 3, recycle the rest. Visit paintcare.org/3simplerules to learn more, or find a paint drop-off site near you.
Today on CityCast DC, absentee rates at DC schools have gone absolutely off the charts. Everyone agrees it's a problem, but there is a lot of disagreement about how to fix it. Axios' Cuneyt Dil has been covering kids playing hooky and grown-ups playing politics, and he's here to tell us about it. Oh, and after the interview, Alliance Française's executive director will be joining us for a brief sponsored conversation. Yes, the Olympics are happening in Paris this summer, but did you know about the Olympic-themed art competition happening right here in DC? Stick around to learn more. Today is Monday, June 17th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. So school is about to be out for the summer, and that's cool, except for a lot of kids. It seems like that may not actually change that much because DC's truancy and absentee rates, which you've written about, are absolutely insane. What is going on here?
Yeah, DC has a really bad problem of kids missing school. It got really worse during the pandemic, or sort of post-pandemic as well. And it sort of culminated in last year, in the 2022-23 school year. This is jaw-dropping. 60% of high school students were chronically absent. And you look at even deeper at the numbers, like somewhere between 30% to 40% of kids in senior classes were missing more than 20% of the year. So just really bad stuff. And, when teens miss class constantly, they not only lose out on schooling, but also the emotional support that school provides and sort of the life skills they need for college and beyond the workforce. So this is a big problem for the city. And on top of that, you look at the youth violence that has been happening in the pandemic and post-pandemic, and some of that is attributed to this loss of the strong school environment, that healthy space for kids to be in.
And the numbers get even worse depending on parts of town. Like east of the river, there were some numbers in the 80s and 90s of percentages.
Yeah, it's really bad. And some of the things I'm hearing are schools and parents have just become more forgiving with children missing school after the pandemic. Given that people were virtually learning, it seemed a bit more easy to slack off or miss school or that sort of thing. And there was obviously a health emergency and people were more willing to stay home. But, people will say there's this new perception among parents that maybe missing school is okay, not as bad as it used to be. And that kids can just make it up, but they're not really making it up. And it's a really bad situation, especially for kids who really need some of that support, whether that's breakfast or lunches or after school programs. They're missing out on those things.
Wait. Can we back up for a second? Because like when people hear like 89.3% chronically absent at Bellevue High in Ward 8, does that mean that like just 11% of the kids are in school that day? Can you explain a little bit about the methodology, how chronically absent is defined and calculated?
So a student in DC could miss up to 40% a day and still avoid being marked absent. So even if they're missing up to 40% a day, which is a lot of the school day, you could still be not absent, which doesn't count toward this really high, ridiculous absentee rate. If a kid misses 10 to 20% of the school year, they're going to be called moderate chronic absent. So they're already absentees and marked as chronically absent by that point. If they miss more than 20%, they're in the severe category of chronically absent. So there's a sliding scale there from DC. But if you're missing even 10% of the school year, you're going to be counted as chronically absent.
So basically, there are some schools where nearly 90% of the kids miss upwards of 20% of the school year by these stats, with or
That's
without
right.
permission. And I guess you're absent if you've got like permission from your parents, and you're truant if you are not.
The rule for being absent, by the way, was relaxed after the pandemic. So this problem is even worse than it appears. Before the pandemic, students were counted absent if they missed 20% of the school day. And in 2022, that rule allows a student to miss up to 40% a day and still avoid being marked absent. So when you're looking at these numbers, it's worse than pre-pandemic, and it's like sort of 2x worse because of just how much easier it got for schools to not count kids as absent, and yet they're still missing more class time.
So as I recall from school, you get in some degree of trouble for playing hooky. Is that a thing? Like, are there consequences and people are not that worried about them?
The whole culture of it seems to me that just gotten much more relaxed, not just from the school, but also from the parent side of things. But there is a new proposal from the mayor trying to go hard on, truancy. But as everything with our bureaucracy, it's moving a bit slowly and it's going through the proper council oversight. But there is a new bill that would make families more responsible for kids who miss school, and also even hold the students responsible through the Attorney General's office if they consistently keep missing school.
So that's what you've written about, that there is a sort of political fight over how to respond to what I guess everyone agrees on as a big problem of school absenteeism, disservice it's doing kids. The mayor's approach involves like mandatory meetings up to and possible prosecution of the parents. This has sparked a lot of pushback from the DC Attorney General, who's independently elected and would have to enforce this, as well as a bunch of other agencies. Can you chronicle this? So what Bowser wants and then what her critics are saying?
Yeah, so the mayor wants to bring in the district social services program, basically remind some of these families the importance of school attendance, etc., offer housing or food assistance if they need it, and also get more strict. So if families with students who accumulate these unexcused absences are missing 10 days of school, they're going to be referred to the Department of Human Services. That's down from just 15 days. And if older students miss up to 25 days of class, they'll be referred to the Attorney General's office. So at that point, those prosecutors, they'll be required to mandate referral to a school attendance program, bring the Human Services Department in as well to hold a meeting, like you said, or even explore court diversion programs. Now, the fight here is the Attorney General has previously said you can't just sort of prosecute your way out of this truancy program. Between the lines, like, he's more of a progressive Attorney General, and he's trying to find ways other than just sort of going at it with a hard hammer at the issue.
So what's the progressive view about the proper way to tackle this problem?
I mean, big picture, they're mostly critical of sort of this punitive response to the issue. Someone like Charles Allen, who again is a bit more progressive, he wants more expectations on the schools and the parents and the city agencies to report these issues instead of taking the court or bringing sort of prosecutors into the table. But this is sort of like the writ large issue in DC over crime, or whether it's other topics like this. Is it a punitive response where we go tough on sort of these kids playing hooky or kids engaging in violence, or do we bring in more emotional support? Do we fund more social service and officers at schools to sort of try and meet students where their needs might be more so, relate to housing or food insecurity?
Do the people who are critical of this supposedly punitive approach, do they have a theory of the case as to what would fix the problem?
They have their own bills. Zachary Parker and Charles Allen, council members, they say their approach would, again, put more of the onus on the schools to try and get these students in school. But
what does that mean, though? Again, I think in a school, like a lot of what the principal can do is get you in trouble. Maybe not with a law, but with detention and stuff.
One thing in Parker's bill is that students with 7 or more unexcused absences over sort of a 120-day period, they'll be referred to human services instead of maybe perhaps going to OAG or going to the Attorney General or that sort of thing. They want more human services instead before we even talk about prosecution or prosecutors. But I think there is also a realization that they're going to have to be more punitive. I'm not seeing the kind of rhetoric where, oh, let's just put more social services in and emotional support and this problem will just go away. I think even if you talk to progressives, they're seeming to leave the door more open to tougher penalties if these students really rack up absences. Like Parker will say that students over the age of 13 should be referred to the Attorney General at 25 and excused absences. And so I think that's a real shift from just simply saying we don't want any punitive measures when it's at such an extreme point of truancy. They're leaving the door open for some sort of more prosecution or court supervision.
It's time for everyone's favorite summer festival. This year's Smithsonian Folklife Festival theme is Indigenous Voices of the Americas, and it will celebrate the National Museum of the American Indian. There will be 6 days packed with programming with more than 290 participants from 60 Indigenous communities across the Western Hemisphere. Indigenous artists, professional chefs, musicians, dancers, athletes, and storytellers will demonstrate traditions and teach workshops that are all free to the public. And don't miss all the Indigenous-inspired cuisine, both on the mall and inside the museum at the Mitsitam Native Foods Cafe. The festival will be on the National Mall from June 26th until July 1st. All events are free, and the festival will be open daily from 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Learn more at festival.si.edu.
Local businesses are the lifeblood of a community. That's why at CityCast, we love introducing you to so many of them. And when it comes to supporting local businesses financially, no other bank does it like Eagle Bank. With both business and personal banking expertise, Eagle Bank has invested in our community for more than 25 years. They know the people, the culture, the history, the challenges, and most importantly, they believe that lifting local businesses and nonprofits lifts everyone who lives here. And isn't that the kind of bank you want behind your business? Become an Eagle Bank business client and you'll partner with a dedicated local banking expert. And because they know our market so well, they also know your customers and your competition and can tailor individual financial products and services that drive results. They're straightforward and transparent, always a phone call away. And they're fast decision makers, so you won't miss out on opportunities. The health of our communities is tied to our businesses, and Eagle Bank believes in doing all they can to keep local businesses soaring.
Leaving aside the law, is there anything that individual schools are doing in terms of tweaking their rules or their practices that might cut down on truancy?
Yes, some schools are hosting pizza parties. They're making wake-up calls even for students to get out of bed.
But so like your principal calls you and is like, wake up, Cuneyt?
Staff, yeah. They're even calling families. The city spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on robo-texts and calls to families if students start falling out of attendance. The Post wrote about this as well. They're sending thousands of automated letters to families just so they can get their students to come back to school. But I mean, it's not all good yet. We're still having such a hard time getting these issues in order.
Do people see this number going down next year? I mean, there is now some energy around trying to come up with policy solutions.
Well, so none of these policy solutions are going to take effect just yet. If it passes this bill from the mayor, maybe it gets in time for the fall school session to start. But this year's already gone by without any meaningful change sort of in policy other than more reminders and more things of that sort. But to get to the point where pre-pandemic, when the rules were tougher, the standard was much stricter, it's going to take, I think, a few more years. I think people recognize that just because we've relaxed the rules so much around what counts being absent.
There's obviously an economic component here. in that it correlates with homelessness, with food scarcity, with all kinds of vulnerabilities. But as best I can tell, those numbers of the people in those circumstances have not changed nearly as dramatically in the past few years as the truancy numbers have. Am I right about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, without sort of diving too deeply into it, but yes, I mean, why? It's the question still on everyone's minds. Why is truancy up so much? What changed so dramatically when sort of the family state may not have? I mean, I think everyone I spoke to will say families went through this crazy pandemic period, and especially if you're a family where your kid has to go across town to school, or they have to go through a dangerous neighborhood, or they might have a reason they don't want to go to school because they feel unsafe for whatever reason. It becomes much harder for those kids now in this sort of relaxed environment where it's not expected you to go to school, perhaps as strictly as it was previously, for them to just play hooky now. And on one end, you have parents who think they can just catch up. On another end, some of these parents might not be so involved in these kids' lives, or they might be busy. And the confluence of all this is, I think, leading to this big truancy problem increasing. And on the other hand, it's also leading to the youth violence problem that we've had recently as well, not just in DC, but region-wide.
Hey, Cuneyt, thank you for being here.
Hey, Michael, thank you.
And listener, don't go anywhere. In just a second, we've got a segment sponsored by Alliance Française. My colleague Priyanka Tilve is chatting with the organization's executive director about an exciting opportunity for kids to get recognized for their art this summer. Stay tuned.
Hey, I'm Priyanka Tilve here with Sarah Diligenty, the executive director of Alliance Française. Sarah, happy Paris Olympics year.
Yes, thank you. It's going to be a busy year for Paris.
Yeah, I'm sure. I hear the games have inspired Alliance Française to host an art competition this summer. What's the deal with that?
Yes, well, we decided that because the adults will all be switched on their screens, watching, the different matches and competitions, we needed to do something with the little ones as well. And when by little ones, I'm meaning, like 6-year-old, 7 years old, all the way to 17. And to give them the spirit of competition, we decided to launch a drawing competition or multimedia for the bigger ones, so they could design and conceive and create a poster about the Olympic Games in Paris.
I love that. You're right, because it is summer and kids need to be entertained. This is a really smart way to go about it. What do the winners get?
Well, the winners will get, depending on their age group and, their abilities, anything from a book, because it's all linked with our library as well, maybe a membership if they're not members, for themselves and their family. And for the bigger ones, the teenager group, I know they like receiving gift certificates or cash, so we will have a small $50 maximum gift certificate or cash for them to get for them, if they're chosen, of course.
Oh, wow. Those are some compelling gifts. Okay, so you said it's a pretty wide age range. I'm assuming the kids will be broken up for the competition into those different smaller, like you're not going to have a 6-year-old competing against a 17-year-old.
No, not at all. Yeah, we'll have at least three categories. I would say les mômes, which in French means the kids, the smaller kids. Les mômes all the way aged to from 6, to about 10. Then we'll have the pre-teens, 10 to 12, and then the teens, senior teens and junior teens, depending on whether we have enough to make 2 groups of teens or not.
Okay. And they can draw literally anything related to the Paris Olympics, anything about the sports that are going to be there at the competitions?
Yeah, they can do anything that for them would evoke the Paris Olympic. It could be an Eiffel Tower being, climbed upon by a pair of alpinists, as far as I know. It would be anything. I mean, it's best if it is a drawing, hand drawing, but I mean, we understand that teenagers, they do some things, digitally nowadays, but we will want them to let us know if it's artificial intelligence, if it's not their hands, but just their brains.
Absolutely. How is this Olympic-themed art competition part of Alliance Française's broader goals in the DC community?
Well, we've had a workshop already in the winter about the Paris Olympic Games and Olympic Games in general, explaining how they started, how they disappeared, how they came back, which was thanks to a French Jesuit, actually, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. We held a class at 2 different levels, if I remember well, at the intermediate and the advanced level, so we could go deeper with the advanced. So we have a plan of probably holding, and that will depend on if I can find a sponsor, but holding an evening whenever there is the opening of the Olympic Games in Paris, the opening ceremony. We have a big screen at the Alliance Française, so we hope to have one event showing the opening with for people to attend at the Alliance Française, that on a big screen instead of at home.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. That sounds like a great time. As one of the potential prizes, you also mentioned membership. I don't think we've talked about that before. What exactly do you get if you become a member of Alliance Française?
Well, if you become a regular member of Alliance Française, there's 2 different regular membership for an individual or for a family. So whenever you become a member of the Alliance Française, you have access to the library, whether the physical library in our location, at our location, or the cultural one, the digital one, which is called Culturetech, which is accessible via your tablet or computer or phone. And then, of course, if you're a member of Alliance Française, you get to be invited to events for free. Or you have, in any case, if it's a paying event, it would be 50% off the price for non-members. And of course, when it comes to the library, if you have a family membership, then you can borrow even more books. It's kind of fun when you see all the parents coming on a Saturday and getting 12 books, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like if you're a parent listening, you might want to encourage your child to sign up for this art competition, because that membership sounds like a pretty incredible thing to get. So people who do want to sign up for the art competition, how exactly can they do that?
They can email me first, because then I can send them the information about that. And then we will add it on the website as well, as which will show on Eventbrite as well.
Amazing. Sarah, what's your email again?
director@francedc.org. It's France for the country, D for district, C for Colombia, all in one word, .org.
Okay, perfect. And then the website for people who want to check out more information there is francedc.org as well. Sarah, thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, of course. And again, that link will be in our show notes, francedc.org. So if you want to learn about the art competition or any of the other cool things that Alliance Française does in DC, check that out. And thanks for listening.
And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.